You're listening to Redesigning Reality with Dylan Charles and Jeff Anthony.
Fucked up or what?
No, it's going. It's going good. It's going.
Let me bust out some kind of intro stuff here, man. So we'll just talk then. Okay. All right. Welcome to Redesigning Reality, the podcast. We're going to redesign your reality, talking about personal transformation, change, awakening, change your perspective, change your life. I'm talking with Jeff Anthony. What's happening, Jeff?
Hanging out, doing the show with you.
The show. Yeah.
The show.
Cool. I know that we like to kick things off by talking about the weather, so I'll go first this time. It's cold here, man. We had some snowflakes like a week ago. Some more snow's coming down in the mountains here, coming up this weekend.
You see, I was trying to not talk about the weather because we made so much fun of me talking about the weather. But I was actually going to say it's really sunny. You can probably tell. Look how shiny and bright I am today. It's really sunny, dude. It was 22 degrees here this morning.
Yeah, we're... For those who don't know, Jeff and I both lived in Costa Rica with our families for many, many years, and while we were down there, 22 degrees was like the perfect day. Celsius.
Right?
That's cold as nuts here, man. Yeah,
Go ahead. I was telling Kai this morning how he opened the back door to see, what it felt like so he could figure out what jacket to wear and stuff, and I was like, dude, isn't it weird when we would open the door in Costa Rica, like getting slapped in the mug with like humidity and funky heat, and then now here it's like opening the deep freeze of a walk-in cooler.
Yeah, totally is. Man, you had mentioned a word to me earlier when we were talking. You were talking about synchronicity. It's funny. I find it synchronistic. Nobody knows how that word works.
Something like that.
It's a made-up word. It's not even a real word. You can't find it in the dictionary, I don't think. But it's synchronistic that you said that, because literally earlier today I was thinking about the concept of synchronicities and like reflecting on the fact that there's been times in my life where I felt extremely dialed in, really spiritually present, awake, in the flow, and those are the times when it just seems like these amazing synchronicities, big and small, would keep happening, coming out of every conversation. Every place I went, I would see somebody or something would jump out at me, something that I needed to hear, that I needed to be exposed to, or someone that I needed to see or needed to remember. And I was thinking about this earlier, just today. I was thinking about how I'd kind of like to. I feel like I'm not 100% in the flow these days, and I'd like to invite more, or maybe create more synchronicities in my life. And when I said that, I was listening to a different podcast, and boom, they started talking about synchronicities. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. The time is right for this. And then I get on the horn with you, and you're like, man, synchronicities. Let's talk about that. So tell us what you know, Jeff.
So here we are. Boom. Here we are.
Boom.
It's synchronistic that we were all on the same wavelength about the synchronicity. No, it's something that I think is fascinating to think about. It's something that's constantly happening, and I don't know. I don't understand why. I guess there's all these people's opinions of why it happens, but does anyone really know? Not really. Because sometimes it can be something as weird as a situation that you find frustrating, and like having a flat tire on the side of the highway or something. And then I wouldn't necessarily say that's a spiritual connected moment. And then all of a sudden some person just rolls up and has like you go to use your jack and your jack doesn't work, or the oil's leaked out of it or whatever. And somebody rolls up and they have this awesome jack, and then they're like, oh no. The synchronistic part of that would be them saying something like, oh, I work at a tire shop, I do this all, and let me grab that for you, and then this frustrating situation turns into yet another learning moment, for yourself, and a way for you to realize that there is something greater in effect and watching out for you. And I think what happens though is we get so busy. I know that this time of year is like people are shopping and thinking about Christmas, and kids are super frantic, and they're like, we got only 2 more weeks of school and then we're out of school. And my oldest son is taking finals right now in college. And so it's just a real amped up period. And I think you kind of squeeze off your spiritual side. You squeeze off the awareness to the things that are happening. And you get all focused on your current situation or the reality that's playing out in front of you. I knew it was going to happen because I heard the. It's always, there's the build up, the little scratchy, and then there's the barky.
Yeah, something's going on. Can you please keep her quiet?
It was synchronistic that the dog would start barking. Yeah. See, the dog agrees.
Can you close the door, please? Yeah, all the way.
Right on cue. See, speaking of synchronicity, I was just talking about kids being all frantic, and they're almost out of school, and everybody's all charged up. And see, then your kids like walk in, and the dog gets fired up, and you have to ask them to close the door. It's perfect. Don't edit that out. That's life.
Yes, you just said the word perfect, and I was about to say that. Like, there's something else going on, man. I was thinking about this idea of synchronicity, of being just out of the flow. You know, you see the flow going, you know where you belong, you know what it feels like to be in the flow, and you know that you're not in the flow, and you want to be back in the flow, because you know in that flow so many good things happen, synchronicities, you end up finding the right ideas, you end up, being inspired and motivated, and good things just come from the synchronistic flow. But if you've been there before and you've lived through it, then you know what it feels like to be out of the flow. And one of the other things that's kind of present in my mind these days is this idea of perfectionism, right? Here we are doing a podcast. Is it going to be perfect? Are we going to make the perfect podcast? Is it going to be like, is every word spoken going to be the right words that need to be said, that need to reach everyone's ears who could possibly be listening?
Not if we keep saying,
I don't know. And see, the last episode that we recorded, I went bonkers with the, the rights, the the rights and the likes. And so in reflection upon listening to that before publishing it, I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is less than perfect. I was not perhaps in the flow. Anyways, here's what I think, man. Fuck perfectionism. To hell with it. Just kick it out the door. If people want to listen to this podcast, they can enjoy a little quip with my chihuahua barking and the kids coming in and the door being bashed down. It sounds like, the Genghis Khan is outside of my door breaching the gates.
Maybe that's why people listen, because our show is less than perfect.
Oh, it's real.
We're not Joe Rogan. We don't have this little perfect studio and mics that we have to grab and pull up to our mouth and move like this all the time. Obviously, that's an inside joke between Dylan and I. We watch a lot of podcasts and observe people's idiosyncrasies, we'll say, and funny things they do. And I love Joe Rogan. I hope you're listening to us, buddy.
Yeah, definitely. Joe Rogan. Call me, bud.
Shout out.
Yeah, when we post this, I'm going to put @Joe Rogan on the Facebook
Let's do
post.
A show, bro. Let's do a show.
Yeah, let's do it, bud. Call me anytime. But really, though, synchronicities, perfectionism, those are like two of the things that are on my mind these days. How do you get your life moving forward? And how do you keep your life moving forward in the flow without worrying too much about being something or someone other than you're not?
Or than what's possible. I think something that has held me up in my own personal journey is perfectionism. And how about this? Something you can probably talk on too is wanting all these different things to line up before you're ready to launch something, or waiting for the perfect time or situation, or, hey, if I can just do this one more thing, or get this better camera, or this little bit better mic, or, hey, I want to get a new laptop and then I'm going to design this thing. I don't know. I see that happen all over the place. There's the Dr. Seuss book, Oh, the Places You'll Go, and they talk about the waiting place. And I see so many people, they're just waiting for, like it says, waiting for a train, waiting for a plane, waiting, and then your life is just passing you by as you're waiting for all of these perfect things to line up. And the funny thing is if you're so locked into that waiting mode, the synchronicities are actually happening and people are inviting you to do these things, and you kind of pass them by because you believe that the timing's not right.
Wow. That's something I needed to hear. The waiting room. There's a lot of things going on in my life personally where I'm literally waiting to push stuff out of the plane, over the edge, into motion. Mm-hmm. But the mind is tricky like that. I don't know if you could say it's just the monkey mind, or maybe it's that part of like the alien DNA embedded into the strain of Homo sapiens. There's some program in there that's like always in there for everybody. And that's one of the challenges we all face, is overcoming this program, this fear program. And I'm not talking about the big fears. Oh my gosh, is nuclear war going to break out tomorrow? I don't know. It's out of my control. Oh my gosh, is the president going to do the worst things? Oh, I don't know. It's out of my control. The fears that just stop things from falling into place and getting into motion.
And usually that's you, right? That's some made up bullshit in your mind. Because the more you break through those things, you realize it's you. It's you holding yourself back. It's you putting yourself in the waiting game, in the waiting room, watching life pass you by. And sadly, many of us, myself included, you kind of get off to that and you think, oh, well, man, this sucks that this isn't happening for me. But yet you're the one that's keeping it from happening. It's kind of, self-sabotage in so many ways.
But it's a program. It's common. It's in everyone. Right? So maybe it has something to do with our... I don't know. I don't really fully understand it, but there's definitely people who have conquered this, and maybe that's what life is about, is overcoming these, inherent challenges that we face as people. These challenges we all face, and stepping up into being who we really are supposed to be.
True. I can see your point in that, but then at the same time, I kind of... I buy into the theory, my own personal theory, I guess, that aren't you always exactly where you need to be? And sometimes these waiting periods and these moments of frustration and self-reflection are what's going to get you to the next thing and make you break through that, obstacle that's in front of you. Although many times that obstacle is your own thought process. And then I think about the people that, we all hear about them, right? They're these like super achievers, and they're going to tell you how to set all your goals and achieve all your goals, and they've made millions of dollars. But then you find out later that they're like, addicted to like prostitutes, and their marriage is in the gutter, and they never took the time to wait, because they were always like powering forward to try to achieve something, and it's empty. Sometimes that bigger and higher goal is empty, and it's the old cliche, it's lonely at the top. It's true, because the bigger and higher goal and the higher and higher you climb, there's not a lot of other people up there, and it becomes hard to be relatable. And I think that's the thing that we're trying to do with our show here, with barking dogs and yelling kids and all that, is we're relatable.
I've been wondering about this lately. There's so many people on the internet selling success and stories and methods for success and how to make millions and all this. But one thing I never hear any of these people talk about, and I enjoy listening to this stuff, like motivation is motivation. We all live in a world where you have to pay the bills, right? You have to get things done. And I'm not a corporate worker. I do things on my own. So I'm in a, I got to hustle in a different way than most people. So I need inspiration. I look for inspiration. I take inspiration where I can get it. But one thing I never hear people talking about is just blind luck, right? how many of these people just got lucky? I know it happens. I know luck is a factor as well. And that kind of comes back to synchronicities. Some people are open to I don't know. Maybe there's no such thing as luck. Maybe it's all just people being in the flow. I don't know. It really seems to me, though, that this distribution of the ideal of success that we have is poorly skewed towards monetary gain, and there's other factors. There's factors other than just hard work that get people there.
And monetary gain. Well, the funny thing you said, just to roll back a little bit, was people selling this story, and that's been a big topic of conversation amongst my friends and I as of late, about how people go. Especially, I think we talked about that a little bit too, with opening our Instagram account and what do we want our presence to be on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. That people put up this like bullshit life, a life behind. You can't see behind the camera. You can't see over here. You don't know. You're just getting the angle that I want you to see of me today, and everybody's all smiles and things like that. And then, I guess I would say, fortunately, but also unfortunately, I've had the opportunity to meet some people that are in the self-help, spirituality, genre, realm, circles, whatever you want to call them. And I've gotten the opportunity to get to know them on a personal level. And it's kind of scary how many of these people, they're selling themselves literally as life coaches and gurus to things, and then their life is shit, dude. Their life is in the freaking it's shambles, man. It's just and they're scrambling around searching for their next dollar and how they're gonna make ends meet. And I've had some of them even ask to borrow money from me for things, and I'm like, dude, I thought you were doing all these seminars and you've worked with all these famous people, and you do this mastermind group for entrepreneurs to show them how to reach their potential, and then you want to borrow like a couple $1,000 from me. Like it's really weird to be behind the scenes, and see how a lot of this stuff is actually playing out, and that's been. Man, I think that's been our biggest challenge, Dylan, for the both of us. It's been what's held us back from doing the podcast, from doing, I talk with people and do counseling, and then I have other therapists and counselors telling me you should be a life coach and stuff. And I'm like, oh, I hate that term. And they're like, okay, well, then call yourself a life guide, or I don't know, but just do something, man, because you're good at this. And
well, look. Perception is not reality. First of all, like that's a feature of our world. Perception is not reality. So those who can manage perceptions, it's very, very profitable to manage perceptions. And so when you get into things like creating a business model around an internet personality or whatever, this and that, people can just follow this business model, this specific laid out strategy to create a perception. That's easy to do. There's no fear in that. It's a business idea. It's a business strategy. There's no feeling to that. It's just action. It's just activity, economic activity, right? So I think where things come in, speaking for myself, where I find the fear, that edge of fear, that place where that holds me back, is when I'm really trying to just allow myself to be myself, and then open myself up to whatever happens. Whatever response, reaction I get from the universe. But when you do that, that's when I find I'm being myself and comfortable with myself, then the synchronicities and all the cool things really start to happen. So it's kind of like this strange hurdle that we have. Jump the hurdle and all kind of magical stuff happens. But yeah, of course, man, anybody can with the tools, with the technology we have right now, anybody can create a false reality by managing perceptions. What's interesting is that AI is actually coming along in such a way that AI can generate photographic images. AI can generate faces of people that look just like real people, but they don't exist. AI can take a photograph of a street in the daytime and turn it instantly into a street at nighttime in the rain. So it's interesting. Like we're entering the phase where computers and artificial intelligence can actually manipulate our perceptions to create false realities.
We have to stop reading and watching the same articles. Sarah, here's some reality for you. I'm going to turn this light off because it's getting so bright outside.
Is it synchronicity?
I'm starting to look like a ghost. It's so bright. That's actually probably better. And I wanted to go back to the thing you said about luck, because there's a quote about luck that I've always loved, and I absolutely believe it to be true. It's the one, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I think that's where we are when we find ourselves in a synchronicity. You're prepared for this thing to happen, and then somebody presents you the opportunity to perform or to show them your idea or to launch your podcast, or what I'm saying? Like there's all these people in the world right now that want to hear exactly the things that you and I are putting out there, that need to hear it too. And so our preparation was the last 10 years in Costa Rica or 7 years in Costa Rica. And then our opportunity is coming because we decided to make the jump and take the leap to come back to the States at a time when the message is necessary. And I remember when I was about to move here and people there were asking me, why are you doing it, man? You just wrote this book. You just you have all these things going. Your life is perfect here. And I realized that I would be doing myself and the people that I desire to help the most a disservice by just staying in the jungle on my little dirt road in the middle of nowhere and kind of keeping my ideas and thoughts to myself, and maybe, selling a couple books here and there. And somebody actually a therapist actually put me to task on that and said, her and her husband, what are you doing down here? Like, you have all this information, you have this amazing ability to break things down and to sort things and help, and you're like this problem solving type of person. And then what are you going to do with that? Like, how are you going to help humanity and people that are stuck, and that are in situations that you've already been in and that you're currently working through? So, and sometimes you need that. Sometimes the synchronicity is a kick in the ass. It's somebody trying to squeeze you for more. Like, hey, I know you're comfortable and I know this is good, but you could go get uncomfortable again and it could be great.
The service, the notion of service, the idea of being of service, giving of yourself in some way to other people or nature or the earth or whatever it is, that's one of the greatest spiritual lessons there is. I mean, that right there is pretty much enlightenment in action, when you can enter a life of service. What I'm doing now is going to serve other people in some way. And that's really what this particular podcast and this ongoing conversation is about. We're sharing these experiences to help people, right? To help people see, to help people gather insight into their own lives, overcome their own struggles, and open themselves up to what lies beyond the fear, right? To what happens when they're in the flow. And so I think that service, I tend to talk about plant medicines a lot, but regarding my experiences with ayahuasca, service is the main message that you get. The main message first is serve and heal yourself. Beyond that, serve Mother Earth, serve other people any way that you can. And as one of my masters puts it, if all you can do is smile at somebody, then you're playing your part to be of service to people, to be of service to this world. And of course, the possibilities are endless. But yeah, so taking your life and uprooting your life in order to shed a positive, to share a positive message, to move to a place, to share a positive message among people who need to hear that message is a form of service.
Yes, and to that I would add that so many times, so many people want to have an explanation of what it is I do, right? Like, how are you doing this? How do you know this about me? What is this? What do you call yourself? What do you call this thing you do? And I'm talking about like the intuitive inner knowing, where I have something that happens where I can connect with their spirit, I'm guessing, or I can see situations in their eyes and I can interpret them and then bring things up to them. And I had this, speaking of synchronicity, I had this awesome synchronicity happen this week because I've always felt that I wanted to have a definition, right? I wanted to have an explanation for how I'm doing it or what I'm doing. And every time somebody's asked me, I'd say, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. I don't know how it works. I don't know how to make you more spiritual or like me. I don't know. It's just something that happened. And because I've had people even ask me, can you teach me how to do what you do? And I don't know how to teach you to do what I do. All I know is how to do it. And I read this thing this week by another healer. His name is Matt Kahn. And he was talking about the role of the healer or the light worker or whatever term you want to throw in there, right? The shaman. And he said that when you do a service for somebody, like when you perform a healing or you perform a ceremony and the person's life changes and they ask you what it was and you try to give them an answer, that's just your ego, right? That's you. Or that the ego is always trying to project the next situation. And so sometimes he's found that healers or light workers or shamans will take stabs at things because they want to be, they want to prove to themselves that they have this ability still, or that they can reach this esoteric realm that other people can't reach, and then they overstretch themselves, and that becomes where I think a lot of the confusion lies with healing and people not getting, and by people I mean clients, and people that are looking for help get bent on a lot of people out there that are supposed to be facilitators because they allow their egos to take over to the point where they have this expectation, and it goes beyond spirituality to the personality, to the personal. And they work so hard to convince, you know what I'm saying? Like I've answered the door many times for clients and they look at me weird. Like, you're the guy? Like, you have earrings and a beard and you're wearing a freaking Quicksilver t-shirt and board shorts in Costa Rica? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm just a dude. I'm not, I don't have a tunic. I'm not wearing a giant crystal. I'm just the guy that's the facilitator for this thing that you wanted to do.
Back to synchronicity. when you're doing this kind of stuff, right? You're basically saying, I don't understand what's happening, but I trust in the universe. And when you do that, I trust in the universe enough to overcome and ignore or put aside, move out of the way, the fear. And when you do that, crazy things happen. The synchronicities really start to come in your life and to pile up.
Yep. I mean, I guess that's exactly what I'm saying. I thought you were going somewhere else with that. I thought you were going to say something else, but and that's always how it works. And I've had situations where I've been, sitting on the beach in Costa Rica, drinking a beer and smoking a joint with my friends, and people walk up to me and they ask me some question, and my thought has been in the past, I'm not in my realm right now. I'm not in the spiritual place I need to be to help this person with this problem. And then you hear this voice say, the person is presenting themselves to you right now, and they're here. And all these things that you have, these hurdles, again, it's like the waiting thing. They were just excuses to try to bargain with myself, or, hey, if it doesn't work this time, it's because I was smoking a joint and drinking a beer. And then you let that go because you hear this little voice, or you get this little nudge,
that's intuition, right?
Right.
It's so hard. I mean, it's hard for me. It's a challenge for me to listen to intuition consistently. so many times in hindsight, 2020, I'll say to myself, like, man, I knew better. You know, I could have made a better decision here. I saw that opportunity to rise. I almost made a different choice, and that choice, I could see how that would have sent me down a more prosperous adventure or what have you. And so, really focusing, or it's almost as though whenever an intuitive choice comes up, you feel it, but you don't always see it until after the choice is made. Why is that?
Well, because we're waiting. Again, if we don't act on things in the moment where, like we said, the whole luck thing, where opportunity is meeting with preparation, and you've prepared for this, and that's to finish that thought. That was what the voice was telling me. It was like, hey, man, when is ever the perfect time? And you can't pick and choose when you want to help people. When people present themselves and they need help, you help.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if somebody had a car accident and you'd eaten a bunch of brownies, at your friend's party, you're not going to not stop and help them because you're like, whoa, I'm freaking high right now. You're going to freaking do what you got to do to help people.
Those must have been pot brownies.
Yeah. But I'm using that as an analogy for the fact that I was smoking weed or whatever. So it doesn't matter the place that your body is in doesn't matter. It's the intention that you have when you go into trying to help someone, right? So if your intention is pure and the person has presented themselves to you and they need assistance, then you're able to facilitate the healing, the conversation, the whatever it is that they need.
Yeah, turning this back onto the self, sometimes you sense that you need something, right? You need to be more in the flow. You need to be overcoming some fears. You need to be doing things differently, operating differently. And I'm saying this, man, because I'm kind of going through a little bit of that right now. Things are changing rapidly for me. And you said something earlier I think is really, really important, that wherever you are is where you're supposed to be, right? And so if you don't catch that call on intuition and you make the wrong mistake, you're still supposed to be there. There's something you're supposed to learn, right? There's something that's supposed to happen. That's where you're supposed to grow, right? That's how you're supposed to become the person that you're supposed to become, And so I'm finding this right now, like there's an element of integration, but there's an element of letting go. Like I can pull it all together, and everything that I know and have learned, I can put it all to use. But at the same time, I don't have fucking control over anything.
I'm totally with you on that. And can you expand on that a little bit more?
I'm really I'm going back to this idea, this thought that I was having earlier this week. Thinking to myself, okay, I know what it feels like to be in the flow. I know what it feels like to be experiencing synchronicities as a positive result of being in the flow, right? Of going with your intuition, of living a life in line with your purpose, right? Moving with the energy that your highest energy, right? And so thinking back on that, I've been asking myself, how do I create situations now in my life? How do I get back on that path of flow? How do I open up situations in my life where synchronicities are happening and things are unfolding for me in a way that is leading to bigger and better things, always inspiring, always moving things forward. You're talking about the energy being, the human being as a being of energy, right? Like that's what we are. We really are energetic beings. And that's why they say high vibration, low vibration, this and that, because energy is frequency. Frequency is vibration. That's what it is. And so in a sense, it seems to me, based on my experience, that synchronicities occur, the ability to stick with your intuition and follow your intuition easily, effortlessly. These things seem to manifest more frequently and more powerfully when you're operating in a higher vibrational state. And that means when the best way I can describe it is that when your awareness is intentionally heightened, your awareness of yourself, your awareness of your thought process, your awarenesses of what's happening in your mind, how your body feels, what you're taking in, what you're putting out. And so this state of increased awareness and focus on paying attention to what's happening in your life seems to open up some of these strange cosmic doors, man. That's what I'm getting at.
Okay. Because it reminds me of the whole, we've talked about this too, is the energy flows where attention goes. Mm-hmm. And I find that to be completely true and accurate. And I think many times when for me personally, even when I'm asked or hired to do some counseling for someone, I realize that many, many times in the middle of it, they are dealing with the exact same issue that I'm currently dealing with. And through me talking through their issue with them, they're actually helping my process of healing, which I find extremely interesting. And I know that you have had the same thing happen with ayahuasca experiences where people are trying to go through, or they are going through an experience that you're currently dealing with or that you've just dealt with in your own experience. And it kind of enables you, or what's the word I'm looking for? It's not that it enables you, but it kind of
empowers.
Yeah, both. But it's like it confirms. It's a confirmation is the word I'm looking for. So you get this confirmation that you're on the right path because, okay, I'm going to give you an example. Some of the things that I tell people in counseling are, look, if you're dealing with anger, okay, for example, you're going to have all these situations come up and arise that are going to trigger you in anger. And then when the same situation keeps arising and you can calm that anger, you can deal with things in a different way, you'll find that less and less people are showing up to anger you. You know what I'm saying? But for a while, you need that flow of aggressive people coming into your life to show you the confirmation that you've changed. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And then as you continue to have the same calm reaction to the situations that you used to find frustration and anger in, you then develop this ability to deal with them in different ways and to find the confidence that you've changed. And then all of a sudden, like magic, these people don't show up in your lives anymore. And it's not necessarily that there's not going to be a moment of anger that happens or that somebody's going to enter your life that's angry. It's just that you've completely changed your ability to deal with it. So it doesn't seem as frustrating or in your, up in your awareness.
I don't know. For some reason that reminds me of an experience I had today. I went to the gym, worked out, all as well. I decide, hey, I got to get back home, get back to work or whatever. But I'm going to run and get some coffee. I'm going to go to my favorite coffee shop, order up my favorite, the Americano. I love Americanos.
Dylan's Americano.
And I park my car, and then a group of like 3 teenagers or whatever parks their car a little further from the front door of this restaurant. And instantly my mind goes, oh God, you got to beat these people in because, then you're 3 drinks back behind the 3 more drinks behind the barista, right? Like you're
3 deep.
You're three more deep. So I hustled and I got into the, so I could control that, right? I walked fast like an idiot and, hustled up to the door. I didn't cut them off. There was enough space where I could just walk fast, look like the guy that's in a hurry, even though I really wasn't in a hurry.
And hit the dude like...
I opened the door, I got in, and luckily for me, there's only like 2 people in line, and I'm thinking, okay, cool, aren't I stellar? I just pulled this off. And then I ordered my drink. Those people that were walking, they got in behind me and everything, super nice folks. I ordered my drink, and then the barista he's just slowest motherfucker ever, I think, right? The slowest coffee maker dude ever. I mean, he spent 5 minutes on a hot chocolate, and then he spent 5 more minutes on another hot chocolate.
Turned into a sloth right in front of you.
And so I'm standing there in front of this guy, and I'm thinking to myself, if I look at the watch, will he just start making my drink? Is it going to come out? And I'm looking at my watch, and I'm doing this whole dance, and I'm like, man, this is so weird. It's so unlike me. Like, I'm not typically this much in a hurry. I don't even really care, but I feel very rushed right now. And so I look at the guy, and then the guy finally says to me, he's like, oh, man, what are you waiting on? And I was like, well, I'm waiting on my Americano. I'm Dylan. He's like, okay, yeah, sorry, there was like 6 drinks in front of you. And I'm thinking to myself, you're slow. Like you're slow. But the fact is that he spoke up and he said this, and as soon as he said that, I was like, man, that felt really good. He broke the ice, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, this is not who I want to be. This is not who I am. There's an opportunity for like greater awareness here. And so I said to the guy, I was like, man, I'm glad you said that. I've been sitting here looking at my watch, and I know that I've been putting pressure on you just by looking at my wrist, right? He's like, yeah, I know, that stresses me out so much, just somebody standing there looking at their watch. So I was like, man, take your time. I'm not in any hurry. And we chatted and had a really good time. But it's kind of what you're saying, like these opportunities to practice awareness happen all the time, anywhere. And then through those practices, the synchronicities, the flow, those, through that habit, that effort to become hyper aware, make sure you're tending to the self and being the person that you want to be, should be, know you can be. Those like that awareness in everyday moments is really what puts you in the flow. Right?
For sure. And then your next thought was, I'm glad I beat those 3 other fuckers in the door, because then I'd be 9 drinks. No, I'm just kidding. But
it's true.
You did think that. I know you. I did. You're like, woo, there's 6 in front of me. Well, it was almost 9.
It was almost 9.
But yes.
You're literally talking. You're talking about a few minutes, though.
True. But I mean, you totally touched on exactly the thing I'm talking about, and doesn't that fall back in line with what we were talking about today, synchronicity, right? So these people, instead of viewing them as the annoying, angry asshole that's coming into your life, they're synchronistically placed there for you to deal with your anger. But until you start to recognize that, you're so caught up in your anger and frustration and your rush and your, frenzy that you think, oh, synchronicity isn't happening for me. And it actually absolutely is, because it's delivering you the exact situation that you need to work on. But yet you're so busy in your rush to accomplish these other things that you feel are important, the me-isms, right? The me, I got to do this. These people don't understand. I'm trying to change the world, that you don't realize that this is the universe, this is consciousness, this is the awareness of what is showing up right in front of you in order for you to have a shift, in order for you to change your perspective, which is exactly what our show is all about. Redesign your reality, change your perspective, change the way you see things, and then the world starts to look completely different to you.
The term synchronicity itself was coined by Carl Gustav Jung, the famous, well-known psychoanalyst, right? Really well known for analyzing dreams and whatnot. But the term came about when he was looking at literally interviewing and working with hundreds, thousands of patients, and seeing, inviting them to pay attention to their dreams, to pay attention to what's happening in their subconscious mind. And he noticed that when they placed their focus on these events that were happening in their dream, in other words, when they brought them from the subconscious to conscious awareness, then events started to actually happen, to manifest in their real every day-to-day lives that pushed them closer and closer to, push them towards greater and greater awareness of who they are. And the ultimate end game, the ultimate prize, I think, maybe one way of putting it, but the ultimate achievement was what he called individuation. A person growing up, a person becoming the person who they're supposed to be, becoming the individual, breaking through the patterns, the cultural programming, the habits that you picked up from your parents or your whatever it is, but basically becoming yourself in the truest, like the deepest, maturest psychological sense. So that's what the synchronicities were for. They were there, they existed. Some unexplainable metaphysical happening existed in order to push the individual further on down the path of personal development, self-actualization, and ultimately spiritual growth.
Right, and self-awareness. And so anyone listening or watching the show right now, if you want to have a synchronicity, start thinking about a family member or a friend that you haven't talked to in a while, and really, really concentrate on that. Go to bed thinking about it, wake up in the morning thinking about it, and you will find that that day, the next day, in a week, that person's going to write you a text. The person's going to give you a call. They're going to send you an email. They may send you a Christmas card. It's that time of year. It just happened to me last week. A friend of mine from the Navy wrote me on my birthday. He actually texted me, which I was like, oh, wow, somebody's texted me. It's not a Facebook. It's not mailing it in on Facebook. Hey, happy birthday. I love the HBDs, right? HBD, because I can't even write out happy birthday, sucker. But
sign of the times, man.
He sent me a text, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I think subconsciously for a couple of days, I was thinking about him. And then Monday, almost a week after my birthday, he called me and was like, hey, man, I just want to catch up. And, I always enjoy talking with you, and it's been too long, and I want to try to do more of this. And so anybody out there that wants to see what a synchronicity is and how you are subconsciously and consciously making these things happen, just start holding that thought about a friend or a family member or somebody that you used to be close to, but you're not as close to anymore because life and you're busy and you live in different places, and watch, it'll happen. They'll contact you. It's really cool.
15 or so years ago, I went through a phase of tremendous personal change, real self-awareness, growth. It was pushed on by some really negative events in my life, what you've been calling the dark night of the soul. And I had gathered a book from a really well-known author named Mantak Chia. He writes about Qi, the energy body. He teaches Qigong and a bunch of these esoteric sort of Chinese-based healing practices. And it was a simple meditation called the microcosmic orbit. And you're basically just sitting in a certain position in a certain way, and you're focused on a certain thing internally happening within your body. Now, in this book, he wrote out all these different things that will start to happen in your real life if you put this practice of meditation in. If you do the work every day, 15 to 20 minutes, and part of that exercise was to then journal for 10 or 15 minutes afterwards. So it was a meditation concentrating on a very distinct, very specific flow of energy within the body. And then when that meditation is done, immediately writing about your experiences. If you want to open up synchronicities in your life, a practice like this is super profound. It does something. It seems to bring forth things from the subconscious mind. And so I went to this phase where I started doing this practice, religiously twice a day, at least once a day. And it changed everything in such deep ways, but seemingly so simple. I would go to work and there would just be a guy there hanging out with my boss. And then it turns out this guy was the next person that I needed to meet to train me in this other area, whatever. Right. So in order to invite synchronicity, practice hyper-awareness, practice self-awareness and introspection.
Well, and it goes back to the thing we were talking about earlier, too, which was the wait, right? If you want to have synchronicity, stop waiting around for it to happen. Start being proactive in your life and proactive in the things that you want to see happen. For example, I was in Costa Rica. I wrote a book. I told my wife, I want to do public speaking. She's like, you've never done public speaking. I'm like, I know, but I really want to do it. I've always wanted to do it. And now's the time. We move here. I joined Toastmasters, start doing this little speaking group. And one day I'm giving a speech in there, and somebody asked me to give a speech at a public forum at this big event. And I go and I do it, and it goes really great. And then as I'm there, at the end of that, another lady walks up to me and is like, I want you to speak at this even bigger event in Portland. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Like one thing dominoes into the next and into the next. And the funny thing, the reason I'm bringing it up and talking about the story is my wife was online with her business partner the other day, and he was like, hey, how's Jeff doing? And she was like, oh, he's doing great. He's been speaking at all these events and doing all this stuff. And he was like, didn't y'all just move there, man? He doesn't waste any time. And I thought about how I'm not trying to push the river. It's not something that I've tried to make happen or push or walk up to people and say, hey, I do this. You should ask me to. It's all happened because I took an active role in pursuing the thing that I wanted to do and found different forums to do it. And within those forums, all these people synchronistically have shown up and invited me to do more and more of the thing that I felt drawn to do.
So there's two elements. There's the vision, the practice of imagining, envisioning whatever it is you want to manifest, and then the action involved with getting there, right? I think, I've been at odds with this whole concept of The Secret for so long. It was a real smash hit. I guess whoever made the movie made a ton of money off the movie. It's pretty popular. People talk about studying The Secret. It's its own thing, and I always felt that it was hollow to me. It just seemed to me like something big was missing from The Secret.
Right. So
I'm interested these days. I feel like we're like on the cusp of something major, some major enormous breakthrough in how we understand the mind and how it relates to, for lack of better words, to the woo-woo concepts in this world. But there's no more denying that the mind has some exceptional power over reality that we cannot quantify yet with science. And I see this happening in so many people's lives. I have a friend that he went and did this whole retreat thing where they hook him up to as a neurological biofeedback machines. And so the idea is that you're learning in real time to train different parts of your brain to do different things, to activate and engage different parts of your brains, but with intention, with deliberation. And so I feel like there's, science may be on the verge of accepting and bringing into the fold these technologies of consciousness. Now, at the same time, there's AI coming on board, so I don't know how it's going to turn out, Jeff. It could go either way at this point.
True, and here's my little spiel. Here's my little opinion, and that's all it is about The Secret. Okay, so in that movie, they're telling people, create your vision, have these vision boards, cut out pictures of Ferraris and mansions and Rolexes and put them on the wall and stare at them all day. That ain't going to do shit for you, man. Like, come on. And that's where I think a lot of people buy into easy, hey, here, swallow this easy pill and it's just going to happen. No. I had to sell my home that I built and loved. I had to write a book that made me cry every day that I did it. I had to, go get an editor and watch them hack and slash and cut things up that I had created. I had to move to another country with my family and leave my friends behind. And then I had to overcome my own, fear or waiting tendency and go out there and just do it. I remember I found out about the group, the Toastmasters, and I told my wife, I'm going to this thing tonight. And she's like, tonight? Well, tonight's not really good. And I'm like, I'm going tonight, because I realized I had to do that. I had to, and it was the best night ever. And after the meeting, my wife was like, man, you're so pumped up and energized. And I'm so glad that you said, I'm going tonight, because it made you jump off and do it. And, all these things, you're not necessarily have to be, tucked away in some little room with a piece of paper and a pen hashing out a new invention or idea that's going to make you rich in order to get there. But you have to put in some kind of effort. All of this stuff is energy. All this stuff I'm talking about, it was all difficult and it was all effort in order to get me to the place that I am now. And I'm still efforting to do it,
And there's some metaphysical web that holds it all together. The coolest, right, like the most transformational, the biggest experiences, like the best steps I've taken in life, looking back, they've all come from a gut reaction, a gut decision. Oh my God, I have to do this. Just like what you're saying about with the public speaking. Like you're like, oh, I found out there's an opportunity to do this. I have to do this right now. So, just moving back through like the things that I've done, whether it's even been something as seemingly simple, but extraordinarily transformative as starting Kung Fu. that changed my life in so many ways. It still affects me every day today. The fact that I took up Kung Fu, dedicated myself to the process of self-mastery that Kung Fu offers. But it didn't start. I didn't deliberate and think for months, oh, is now the right time to take up Kung Fu? No, I was going through some hard shit in my life, and I was faced with, the choices of, oh, take a bunch of fucking pills that your doctor gave you for depression and anxiety and all this garbage and poison yourself even further. Or what? And as I thought to myself, or what? A guy walks by carrying Kung Fu swords and weapons and nunchucks and shit like that. And oh, dude, take me to your leader, right?
Take me to your leader.
Take me to your leader. It changed everything. That's the same thing. It's the same way I got involved with plant medicines, which has done so much, have brought forth so many cool and interesting experiences, introduced me to so many amazing people, made so many friends through it, opened up so many doors of opportunity. But all of the major decisions, the things that have really changed my life in huge ways, have all been, I guess, extraordinarily intuitive decisions, and that says a lot about the type of person that I am. There's definitely people who operate differently, but that's who I am, and I think I tend to be willing to take risks and do out of the box things when my gut tells me that's what I'm supposed to do, and that's that whole idea of being in the flow. Paying attention to the synchronicities when they come in your life, when these opportunities or these ideas pop in your head, but also following your intuition.
Right. Now, being willing to listen.
Yeah, but the rub is that you don't have to listen. When it's the right choice, it just, that's where things get weird. You could say, oh, I'm a person that intentionally follows my intention, like my intuition, right? I pay attention to my intuition, but do you? You don't know. But then there's also that dynamic of, oh, wherever you're at today, that's where you're supposed to be. So, if you feel like you made a decision contrary to your intuition, then maybe that's where you're supposed to be. But what I'm saying is that all the big decisions have been intuitive decisions. So maybe that means that all of the smaller decisions that felt less than intuitive were actually highly intuitive. Man,
look at the circle we're weaving here. It's a
feedback loop.
It is, but it's really interesting, the whole concept that we're talking about with the synchronicity and intuition and listening to your intuition. And I feel like that's the thing that a lot of people miss out on. And I was reading recently this book about mastery, right? So it takes 10 years and tens of thousands of hours, 10 years of doing something before you become a master. Right. So 10 years of blogging, you'll become a master blogger, right? 10 years of writing, 10 years of playing the guitar. So you and I, it was funny because my son was asking me, what are you reading about, Kai, my little guy? And I was like, I'm reading this thing about mastery, and it says it takes 10 years to be a master of anything. So you're not even a master of being a kid yet because you're only 9, right? So you haven't even mastered being a human. And it's true. He doesn't know how to cook. He doesn't know how to, like, hey, come here after a shower. Like, you got a big knot in the back of your hair because you haven't mastered brushing your hair yet. So it's really interesting. But it also is I'm bringing it up because it's an example of how people don't give themselves enough grace and enough time. Right? Everybody wants these things to happen super fast and super quick. But think about it. If you were going to go have orthoscopic surgery on your knee, do you want the 28-year-old surgeon that was the top of his class and just got out of school last year? Or do you want the 48-year-old dude or 52-year-old dude that's been performing thousands of these surgeries and, could literally do it in a sleep kind of thing? You want that guy because he's become a master of his craft. And I think that's what we're working on, right? And we've talked about that in the beginning of the show. It's easy to be a perfectionist. It's easy to be critical of our podcast and what we're doing here. And for all the haters out there, they're like, these guys suck. Well, we're not masters yet because we don't have 10,000 episodes. But you know what I'm saying? Everything is a process. And I know you and I are both now doing the public speaking thing and doing the Toastmasters and working on our speech and all this stuff. And I've noticed the shows have gotten better because even though there's not a camera in front of us and we're not recording, we're practicing, right? And so, and there's a reason it's called practice because you're going to fuck it up and you're going to make mistakes. And, martial arts. There's a practice of martial arts. There's a football practice. There's soccer practice. There's every kind of practice. People practice yoga because they're not masters of it, right? And even the masters are still practicing. And so give yourself grace, give yourself the opportunity to grow. And before you know it, if you can consistently work on the thing that you want to be really good at, like public speaking or writing or whatever it is, through consistency, you'll get there. And take down the vision board. I don't have a board. There's not a Rolex over here and a car over there or a house. I live in my house, and my Dylan's vision board is behind him. It's pretty trippy.
I was thinking about that. I was listening to some other podcasts, and they were talking about vision boards and houses and stuff. And I thought to myself, what really makes me happy? That's what I should put on my vision board. And it was literally pictures of like hanging out with the kids, going out to eat with my wife, feeling good after a good workout or a good run or like a good roll at jiu-jitsu, being in the jungle, just all these real seemingly simple things. So anyways, man, we've talked for an hour. It's crazy how sometimes an hour can fly by. But look, the takeaway here for me is that I'm sitting here before this conversation. I'm thinking, geez, man, I really need some more synchronicities. I really got to get in the flow. God,
get that flow.
Things would be better if I was in the flow and there was synchronicities. But the reality is, just thinking and meditating on it for an hour, talking to you. I'm like, dude, face palm. They're all right there, man, in front of me.
It's happening all the time. Yeah,
all the time. So, anyways, Jeff, man, let's do this again, like all the time.
Yeah, we'll do it all the time.
Yeah.
And don't forget to go check Dylan out at wakingtimes.com. Of course, you can find me at journeytoinnersage.com. Check out our new Instagram and Facebook pages. And, of course, it's all our pleasure bringing the show to you guys.
Yeah, and I think our mission here is just to shed some positive vibes and, more than that, shed some perspective on life. And I hope you got something out of this. Thanks so much for tuning in. Peace.
Later.
You've been listening to Redesigning Reality with Jeff Anthony and Dylan Charles.
Mukabanya, mukabanya.